Ever feel like life took a turn and suddenly you're on a path you never expected?
Yeah, like you're just along for the ride.
That's what we're diving into: Jacob's journey to Egypt. Family drama, cultural clashes, those moments that echo through generations, We're in the book of Genesis, chapters 46 through 48, ready to unpack this.
Absolutely. What we often miss is this isn't just a family trip.
Right.
It's a huge migration, a whole shift with lasting consequences.
So set the scene. What's happening in Canaan that makes Jacob pack up everyone and everything?
Famine, a brutal one, so bad that Jacob and the whole household, they're at a breaking point. The resources, gone. The land itself, it's hurting.
It's almost unimaginable, that level of desperation, to leave everything familiar for survival.
Right.
But Egypt, back then, that wasn't just any destination, was it?
Not at all. It was the place to be advanced, wealthy, the Nile, lifeblood and all that. But for shepherds, different story.
Different. Genesis calls shepherds an abomination to Egyptians. What's that about?
Culture clash, really. Egypt, they're all about agriculture, the Nile's rhythm.
Predictable.
Exactly. Shepherds, they move around, a threat to that whole system.
So more than just not liking sheep, it's this fear of everything being disrupted.
You got it. Different lifestyles, totally different ways of seeing the world. Makes Jacob's arrival, well, understatement. This massive caravan, animals, people led by Jacob, tradition personified.
Walking into a place where just being who they are is offensive.
Exactly. And that's what Joseph comes in.
Jacob's son.
The one behind it all. He's got to bridge the gap between his family, his culture, and the whole Egyptian court. Talk about pressure.
Yeah, like walking a tightrope. But there's this moment. Pharaoh meeting Jacob, it always gets me.
Oh, you mean Pharaoh's reaction?
Yes. This powerful ruler, he sees something in Jacob. Wisdom, authority, something that goes beyond all their differences.
It's easy to miss that detail. Pharaoh, he doesn't just greet him, he asks about Jacob's life. Sees him as an equal, maybe even a peer.
Jacob, the foreigner, he has this weight to him. Even Pharaoh feels it.
Proof that real leadership, deep wisdom, it's universal. Connects us even when we seem worlds apart.
Little did they know. That meeting was just the start. Something bigger was unfolding. Their resilience, their beliefs, everything about to be tested.
Now, we haven't even gotten to the blessings and the surprises yet. That's where things get really interesting.
So last we left off, Jacob and the gang, they're getting settled in Egypt. Which, speaking of, has its own problems to deal with. Yeah. And ironic, right?
Yeah, there really is.
They escaped famine and walked right into another one.
It just shows you, even back then, trouble had a way of spreading. In Genesis, it doesn't sugarcoat it. Egypt, during this famine, the land is languishing, it says. The Nile.
Their lifeline.
Failing to bring life. Can you imagine?
It's hard to overstate how vital the Nile was to them.
Yeah.
More than a river, it was everything: food, work, almost sacred.
Absolutely. And now it's failing. People are desperate. Resources are just gone. Their whole world's on the line.
And this is where Joseph, who, let's remember, his own brother sold him into slavery.
Wild. Yeah.
He becomes the key to their survival. What a twist.
Talk about irony, huh? The one they cast aside, he's holding a whole nation's fate in his hands. And the solution he comes up with, brilliant, but morally complex, let's say.
Okay, break it down. What does Joseph do that's got people talking even now?
He uses the famine to make Pharaoh even more powerful. Basically, buys all the land using grain. Egyptians become servants.
So he saves them from starving, but it costs them their freedom. Tough call.
No easy answers there. It's still debated, Was this survival mode making the best of awful choices? Or was it calculated? Power grab, even if it meant using people's desperation. The text, it leaves it open, makes us think about it.
Which I kind of like. Even in scripture, things aren't always black and white. There's nuance, makes it more real.
For sure.
But while we're on the topic of power, there's this small thing. Bugs me every time I read this part.
What's that?
The priests. They don't have to give up their land. Why? Everyone else does.
Good catch.
Seems like a tiny detail, but
it tells a bigger story. Their influence, their closeness to Pharaoh, it protected them. Even famine couldn't touch that. Religion and politics, always intertwined.
Exactly. Like, beneath the big story, there's this whole other level of power games going on. Stuff that shapes history.
Like a tapestry, right? You only see the full picture when you look at each thread, even the little ones.
And speaking of threads, let's talk about Jacob blessing his grandsons. This isn't just Grandpa being nice.
Oh, no. This is huge.
This is the moment. So much riding on it.
Echoes of promises made generations ago, legacies, futures, all about to be decided.
Give us the context then. What leads up to this blessing?
Picture this. Jacob, he's old now, feeling his mortality, eyesight fading. Not the man he was. But when he calls for Joseph and his 2 sons, Ephraim and Manasseh.
These aren't just any grandkids, right?
Nope, they are the future.
Of the whole tribe, basically.
You get it? A blessing from the patriarch. This wasn't just words, it was everything. Inheritance, destiny, the whole deal.
Okay, so now the stakes are really clear. Jacob, on his deathbed, holding the future in his hands, and 2 grandsons. High drama. What happens next?
Well, Joseph, always proper, he positions his sons carefully. Manasseh, the older one, he's on Jacob's right side, the place of honor, you know. Ephraim, the younger, he's on the left. Everything by the book, totally expected.
Joseph's making sure it all goes smoothly, traditions followed, so what could go wrong?
Funny you should ask, because divine plans rarely go as we plan.
Okay, so it's all set up. Jacob, the patriarch, about to give the blessing. Joseph's made sure his sons are in the right spots, following tradition. This is it. Then what?
This is where it gets good. Jacob, he crosses his hands, puts his right hand, not on Manasseh, the older one, but on Ephraim, the younger son.
He doesn't. He goes against everything expected right there at that moment. Wow.
It throws everything off, that's for sure. And Joseph, you can tell he's thrown for a loop. But remember, this wasn't just symbolic, those hand placements. This was serious stuff, deciding inheritance, who gets blessed the most.
So more than just a bigger piece of land, it's about spiritual power. Who leads the tribe? Even, a double portion of that covenant from way back with Abraham.
Bingo. And Joseph, he tries to correct Jacob. You can practically see him going, Dad, no, the other way. But Jacob, he's made up his mind.
Amazing. Like, he's seeing something nobody else does. Something beyond the rules.
Yeah.
Beyond what even Joseph, who lives by those rules, can understand. What's Jacob's reasoning?
He doesn't spell it out, which is interesting in itself. But when he blesses them, we get a clue. He says Ephraim, the younger, he'll have nations come from him, his descendants, countless, like the stars.
He's seeing generations ahead. Something in Ephraim, something that trumps birth order, what's expected, everything.
And this isn't the first time, right? Remember back to Abraham, to Isaac? God doing the unexpected, picking who no one thought, proving his plan's bigger than ours. This moment, with Jacob, Ephraim, Manasseh, it's all connected. Proof that God keeps his word, generation after generation.
So sometimes the best blessings, they come in ways we'd never guess. Challenges what we think we know, shows us there's more to the story.
Exactly that. And this story, the twists, the cultures clashing, those unexpected blessings, it makes us look at our own lives, doesn't it? What seems small now, but maybe it's part of something huge. When do we cling to tradition? When should we be ready for God to shake things up?
Good questions to ask. Sometimes those detours, the moments where we go, whoa, what just happened? They lead to amazing things, like Jacob in Egypt forced there. But look what comes from it. His family's whole destiny reshaped.
And that wraps up our deep dive into Jacob and his journey. More than just an old story, though. It's a challenge to be open-hearted, to see how faith and resilience, they're part of our stories too, to be ready for the unexpected.
Powerful stuff to think about. Because sometimes when our assumptions get challenged, when life throws us a curveball, that's when we find out how strong we are. That's when we step into a future even better than we'd imagined. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking those questions, and keep diving deep into the stories that connect us all.
Welcome to Charlie and Mia's podcast. We're embarking on an exciting journey to read through the entire Bible in just 1 year. Every day, we dive into Scripture, exploring its meanings and how it applies to our lives today. We invite you to join us on this incredible adventure of learning and discovery. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you never miss an episode.